Hello everybody, ciao a tutti and welcome to Art with Ms.B. It's been a while since we painted together with watercolors, so today the practice will be dedicated to watercolor and I'm gonna guide you and teach you very easy way to paint beautiful trees. For this practice, you need your watercolor journal. If you don't have it, a watercolor paper, you can cut it in a small piece because we're just gonna paint one single tree, so you don't have to fill a huge space. If you don't have watercolor paper, you can also do it on mixed media paper, so any paper that is heavy and thick enough to hold the wet media. It will just do a little it will give you a little different result just because the texture of the watercolor paper, it's different from the mixed media, which is usually smoother. You need a cup with some water, a small medium brush, I would say small and round, any watercolor brand that you have available. And remember that if you don't have many colors in your palette, you can always mix them, okay? And just relax, set yourself in a comfortable position. It's a small, sweet practice that I hope will make you very happy. Because we are focusing on just one element and one tree, and I have a small journal, I decided to place it in this direction vertical. You can decide to do the same if you have a similar shape or something different. We're going to immediately proceed without any pencil sketching and with our watercolor, any palette. You can choose other type of colors that I use, like a darker or lighter. Remember that it's your trees. I'm just gonna guide you in a few simple steps that can give you beautiful, nice trees. So we work with kind of a sketchy scribble type of line. So actually what I always say to the students is just do not control it too much. Let it go. Sometimes the mistake that we can commonly do is try to do something perfectly symmetric, perfectly central, but in that case, unfortunately, we lose the uh, natural look, right? The organicity of the design. Make sure that you can kind of overlap some of the branches, and then you will go down, always with this nice sketchy line. You can do some of the roots. Use the same technique that we used for this one. Now we're gonna start to fill in. We're using a wet on dry technique, which means that my paper is dry, my brush is wet. We're gonna control the water a little bit in this particular step, and then we lose it up later on. Gentle, barely touch the paper. There should not be any scrubbing on the paper. You can mix a brown, you can have a lighter. We can proceed on the ground, so we let this set and dry a little bit. Once again, we're doing sketchy type of lines, right? Doesn't have to be neat, it doesn't have to be too perfect. On the contrary, and also play with some value, light and darker. So have fun in dipping your brush in different colors. Maybe sometimes you will dip the brush just into the water, no color, and you will just go when you already have some color and spread it out more. Some fun. We can add some nice green also. In the fall we still have some green. It's just mixing with more earth tones, some brownish and warm colors. Here we go, so a little darker green. Once again, this one is really type of, lose control. Don't overthink it. Let the water do its magic. I would add a little darkness over here close to the tree. Just I like it a little darker. Now that the tree is dry, you can rework over by adding some more, value. So once again, dark, shadow, right? And a nice like a pattern shadow and light. And leave one side lighter, the other one darker. Then you can go a nice gently touch to add a little extra texture. We let this dry. And now we're gonna work on the leaves. Now I'm gonna choose beautiful warm color for the fall. It's almost about to end. Here in Utah, it was extremely warm. So look what I do. The brush is pretty wet. The paper is dry. I gently tap or scribble. Try to tap or scribble. There is enough water, so I'm barely touching the paper, so I can still control a little bit the position of my leaves. Dip some water, back in orange, back in the water if you think that you need a little more expansion. Remember that we are not painting, of course, one leaf at a time, but we are painting the optical illusion of leaves, right? The implied texture. So nicely go, your branches should be dry, and even if there is a little bleeding between the brown and the orange, it's absolutely fine, right? It's the beauty of watercolor is the surprise that comes from the water, the imperfection, that spontaneous bleeding of one color into another, and the water itself, right? So I didn't paint the background and the sky because the focus of this practice is to learn how to do successful trees with watercolor without feeling stressed or overwhelmed. But otherwise you could have painted the back, but we can always do it afterwards, okay? So these are different options. And once again, I give you the different steps, but that doesn't mean that you have to follow exactly the same steps that I do, because each one of us work it a little differently. Now I'm going to mix a little bit of green with brown, and I'm going to very gently and not everywhere, you know, just gently touch the paper, like tap the brush here and there, because we want to show different shades of colors in the leaves, and we create this beautiful value for which the inside of the tree, where doesn't get hit by the sunlight as much as the tips, right? So the tips will be definitely lighter and brighter, but the inside has this beautiful nice mixture between the green, the brown, and the orange. Now we can even go, let's see if you can retrieve my yellow. It's completely dirty. I should have cleaned the palette before, but honestly, sometimes I like it because you have that surprise. So I have this golden yellow. I didn't really clean the brush that much, so there is still a little bit of greenish and brownish, right? And I'm going to use this brighter color and lighter color to really illuminate even more the tips of the tree. And as I say, you can do this bigger, more, do it as long as you want. Now I think that I will go back to orange, and maybe we can do some tiny little spots of orange, right? Some leaves fell down. So we have some spots of orange also on our ground, right? We don't make it like plain. We don't want just one single color. We want some variety as well. Always is a little, tiny little scribble, tiny little spots here and there. Don't overthink it. Now I'm gonna dry a little bit of brush, get some brown again. This time I have a little less water on my brush because I want to go over some of the roots and define them just slightly more. So if you want to add a little definition, remember that you need to control the water, correct? So you want to have a little less water so it's not going to bleed that much like other, in other area of our drawing. And then with the brush, I'm going to actually go over again and dark up again those branches that I want to be the darkest one. And once again, you can go up and up and down in the trunks to give it some nice um, texture. Now look here, I'm gonna dip in the light orange again, back in the water, dip it on the paper just a little bit, and I will just gently go around, gently, maybe it's even too much. I'm gonna actually do it just with the water, a little bit more water, and I'm just going to just barely touching the last tip, so I'm kind of let the color bleed a little bit to create this beautiful aura, if we can call it this way, on the trees. Beautiful. Here, I'm just keeping the brush in the water and just gently, almost barely touching the paper to create this beautiful aura, right? And now you can leave it this way. If you want to do a background, you can choose a pale blue. You know, the sky and the fall are not super bright, so I'm dipping in the water, dipping the color, back in the water, tapping the paper. If I see that it's too bright, I'm gonna dip in the water again, you see, until it's very pale. So if you want to do experiment on the side of a paper before doing it in your journal, or do it in your final, if we can call it like your final, just do the experiment that you need to tap in the water. I'm just really barely touching the paper. I like when the light blue will mix. You see, we're gonna help the bleeding. Then a little bit of color again, but because it's very intense and bright, I'm gonna tap it several times. I always start from the bottom, so it's gonna be a little more intense. And then very gently, brush it gently, let it mix and bleed. We want something really, then maybe with the, always with the blue, you can go back inside the tree, right? So you see some, just a little bit of sky passing through, right? Some natural passages that the tree will need. And then one more, a little bit of blue on top. Once again, and then super light. So you dip in the water several times and then spread it very well. Deep in the water, just let the same little color bleed to the pigment everywhere. And then it's super light in this case. So the background doesn't want to compete with the beautiful tree, which is the main subject of our painting. We're gonna kind of just slightly add a little more blue to create a beautiful contrast with this like a light color. Once again, here is the sky. It's visible also. And you can add any details that you want. You can add some texture if you want on the tree. So I would take some green. I would tap the brush on the paper just because I don't want it super wet, and you can do some nice, you know, tiny little strokes to add some of the texture of the dress. So with this one, this is how I do. I use my hands to actually hold my brush and my so I don't add too much pressure, and I just barely touch the paper with vertical and diagonal strokes. Overlap some of these strokes and don't overthink it, because once again the risk is that if you do all lines together, same size, same direction, it will look natural, it will look too perfect, right? So sometimes we, you know, we really need to lose it up. But look how pretty, just a fine, you know, tiny little touch, something so simple like some strokes that can really add another layer of interest and texture to our piece. And as I say, you can add the flower, you can add as much of this grass texture and patterns as you wish. Probably you look at the tree, if you see something missing, like you would like to have a little bit more of the dark green, now that is drier, you can definitely go and add some more green inside. You know, the leaves that are still green because they take longer to get orange and yellow, right, to fulfill their cycle, just because they are inside and so they're some kind of sheltered from the natural sunlight. It's beautifully lovely, you see, some mold and value and interest in our tree. And this is our beautiful fall tree, something nice and simple, and you can try with any other color palette, and not just a fall palette, but also winter. Well, it will be mostly barely, you know, it would have barely any color. It would just be the brown and then the snow, and also other colors in the spring. We're gonna do more. I hope that you have fun, and I'm gonna switch the camera so we can see the back.